My wife Lisa and I have been married for 8 years. We don't have any kids, just us and our dog, Max. I always thought we were happy, you know? We had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing major. Or so I thought. Lisa works for a marketing firm downtown, and her job involves a lot of late-night events and client meetings. Because of this, she started using this business taxi service to get around. At first, I thought it was a great idea. It meant she didn't have to worry about parking or driving home late at night. Plus, the company reimbursed her, so it was no big deal. She started taking these trips about a year ago, and there was this one driver, Mike, who she seemed to request more often than not. She'd talk about him sometimes, just in passing. "Mike's so reliable," she'd say, or "Mike knows all the best shortcuts." I didn't think much of it at the time. I mean, it made sense to have a regular driver who knew her schedule and preferences, right? But looking back, there were little things that should have tipped me off. Lisa started dressing up a bit more for these events, even when they were just casual client dinners. She also seemed more glued to her phone, laughing at messages that she'd quickly hide when I walked into the room. I brushed it off as work stress or just her having fun with friends. Man, was I naive. One night, Lisa came home later than usual. She was flushed and out of breath, saying she'd had to run to catch the last taxi. She gave me a quick kiss and headed straight to the shower. I didn't think much of it, but Max, our dog, was acting strange. He kept sniffing her clothes and whimpering. Weird, right? Anyway, things really started to get strange a couple of weeks ago. Lisa had another late-night event, but this time she came home even later than usual. I was worried, so I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. When she finally walked through the door, she looked different. Her hair was a mess, and she had this weird, guilty look on her face. I asked her if everything was okay, and she snapped at me, saying I was being paranoid and that she was just tired from a long night. That's when I started to suspect something was up. I mean, it wasn't like her to be so defensive. I decided to do a bit of digging. I checked our phone bill and noticed a bunch of calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. I looked it up and sure enough, it was Mike's number. Still, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were just friends? Maybe she felt safe having someone she trusted driving her around late at night. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. So one night, I decided to follow her. She said she was going to a client dinner, so I waited until she left and then grabbed my car keys. I kept a safe distance, not wanting to spook her. She got into Mike's taxi, and I trailed them downtown. They didn't go to any restaurant or client's office. Instead, they pulled into a parking lot by a small park. I watched as they sat there, talking and laughing, way too close for comfort. And then, they kissed. My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They kissed for a while before Mike started the car again and drove off. I followed them all the way to a motel on the outskirts of town. They went inside, and I just sat there in my car, numb and shaking. I waited for what felt like hours until they finally came out. Lisa looked disheveled, her clothes wrinkled and her hair a mess. They kissed again before she got back into the taxi. I followed them home, trying to keep it together. When she walked through the door, she gave me that same guilty look. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next. Do I confront her? Do I wait and gather more evidence? So here I am, typing this out, trying to make sense of everything. I'm not sure what my next move should be. Should I confront her now, or wait until I have more proof? I feel so lost and betrayed. The next few days were torture. Lisa acted like everything was normal, which made it even harder to keep my emotions in check. Every time she laughed at something on her phone or mentioned another late-night meeting, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I had to know for sure. One evening, Lisa told me she had another work event. She was all dressed up again, looking way too nice for a simple client dinner. My heart sank, but I kept my face neutral and wished her a good night. As soon as she left, I grabbed my car keys and followed her once more. Sure enough, she got into Mike's taxi. This time I had a plan. I followed them to another secluded spot, a different park, and parked a little way off. I had brought my camera with a good zoom lens, determined to get some photographic evidence. They sat there, talking and laughing, just like before. Then, things escalated. They started kissing again, and it quickly turned into something more. I snapped a few pictures, my hands shaking. I felt sick to my stomach, but I knew I needed more proof. I kept following them as they drove to a different motel this time. They went inside, and I waited, just like before. After what felt like an eternity, they finally came out, looking as disheveled as ever. I took more pictures, trying to steady my shaking hands. When Lisa got home, she gave me that same guilty look. I managed to keep my cool, though my heart was racing. She kissed me on the cheek and headed straight to the shower. Max, our dog, gave her clothes another sniff and whimpered. I felt like my whole world was crumbling around me. The next day, I decided it was time to confront her. I couldn't keep living like this, pretending everything was fine. I gathered all the photos and the phone records and waited for her to come home. When she walked through the door, I took a deep breath and said, "We need to talk." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "What is it now?" she snapped. I pulled out the photos and laid them on the table. "Explain this," I said, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. Her face went pale. For a moment, she was speechless. Then she exploded. "How dare you spy on me? You're so paranoid. This is why I've been unhappy, because you're always breathing down my neck." "Unhappy?" I shot back. "You've been lying to me and sneaking around with Mike. How could you do this to us, to our marriage?" She started crying, but it felt more like a performance than genuine remorse. "It's not what it looks like," she sobbed. "Mike and I are just friends. We got carried away, but it meant nothing." "Nothing?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You've been cheating on me, lying to me, and you say it meant nothing?" She kept crying, trying to make me feel guilty. "Please, we can work it out. Don't throw everything away because of a mistake." I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. "A mistake? This wasn't a one-time thing, Lisa. You've been doing this for months. I can't trust you anymore." She fell to her knees, begging, "Please don't leave me. I'll do anything. We can go to a psychologist. I'll quit my job. Anything. Just don't leave me." Her desperation took me by surprise. I expected her to deny it, maybe even blame me, but it was different. I was torn. Part of me wanted to kick her out right then and there, but another part of me remembered the good times we had, the life we had built together. I needed time to think about it. "I don't know, Lisa. I need time to think about it. You've hurt me so much and I don't know if I can get over it." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Take your time. I'll do my best to fix it." I didn't know what to do next, but I knew I couldn't stay in the same house with her right now. I packed my bag and told her I would stay with a friend for a while. And here I am, on my friend Dave's couch, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wants to forgive her and try to make things right, but another part of me is screaming to get out of here while I still can. After that confrontation, I was staying at my buddy Dave's place. He's been a rock, listening to me vent and giving me a place to clear my head. But being away didn't make things any easier. Every time I thought about Lisa and Mike, my blood boiled. A couple of days passed and Lisa called me crying again. "Please come home, we need to talk this out," she begged. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I needed to get more of my stuff anyway, and maybe seeing her face to face would give me some clarity. When I got home, Lisa looked like she hadn't slept in days. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "We need to talk, Lisa," I said sternly. She started immediately. "I'm so sorry, I really am. It was a huge mistake. Mike means nothing to me, I swear. It was just the excitement, the thrill." I cut her off. "You expect me to believe that? You've been lying to me for months. This wasn't just a one-time thing, Lisa." Her eyes flashed with anger. "And you, spying on me, following me around? That's not okay either. Are you seriously trying to turn this around on me?" I shouted, my frustration bubbling over. "You cheated on me. You betrayed our marriage." She screamed back. "Maybe if you paid more attention to me, this wouldn't have happened. You're always so busy with work, with your own life. I felt ignored, unloved." "Unloved? That's bullshit, and you know it." I was losing it. "I've always been there for you, supported you. This is not my fault." She broke down, sobbing hysterically. Please don't leave me. I'll quit my job. I'll never see Mike again. I'll do anything, just don't leave me." It felt like she was manipulating me, playing on my emotions. "How can I believe anything you say? You've lied to my face for months." Her tone shifted, becoming more desperate. "I'm begging you. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, anything you want." I shook my head, feeling my resolve weaken. "I need time, Lisa. I can't just pretend everything's okay. That's when she dropped another bomb. I think I might be pregnant. I stared at her, stunned. What? I'm late, she said, her voice trembling. I haven't taken a test yet, but I think I might be pregnant. My mind was spinning. If she was pregnant, whose baby was it? Mine or Mike's? The thought made me sick. And you're just telling me this now? She cried harder. I didn't know how to tell you. I'm so scared. I felt a mix of anger, confusion, and a tiny sliver of hope. If she was pregnant, it could change everything. But I couldn't ignore the possibility that it might not be mine. You need to take a test, I said coldly. We need to know for sure. She nodded, wiping her tears. Okay, I'll do it right now. We sat in silence, the tension thick in the air. She went to the bathroom, and I could hear her sobbing. When she came back, she held the test in her shaking hands. We have to wait a few minutes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Those minutes felt like hours. My mind raced with all the possible outcomes, none of them good. When the timer finally went off, she checked the test and burst into tears again. It's negative, she cried. Relief washed over me, mixed with a renewed wave of anger. You lied about that too, didn't you? Just another way to manipulate me. No, I swear I thought I might be, she sobbed. I was so scared and confused. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm done, Lisa. I need space. I'm going back to Dave's. Don't contact me unless it's an emergency. She screamed as I walked out the door. You can't leave me. You're my husband. We're supposed to work through this together. I slammed the door behind me, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. I drove to Dave's place, my mind racing. When I got there, I told him everything. He listened patiently, offering his support. Man, you need to get a lawyer, Dave said. You can't trust her. She's lied too many times. He was right. The next day, I contacted a divorce lawyer and scheduled a meeting. I needed to protect myself and figure out the next steps. That night, I got a series of frantic texts from Lisa. Please, we can work this out. Don't leave me. I love you. I'm so sorry. I ignored them, needing the space to think clearly. A couple of days later, I went back to the house to grab more of my things. Lisa was there, looking even worse than before. Please, just hear me out, she begged. I sighed, feeling exhausted. What now, Lisa? She took a deep breath. I've been talking to a therapist. I know I have issues, and I want to work on them. For us, for our marriage. Therapy isn't going to fix what you did, I said, my voice cold. I know, but it's a start, she insisted. I want to make this right. I love you and I'll do whatever it takes. I felt torn. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that we could somehow fix this mess. But another part of me knew that the trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. After our last conversation, I went back to Dave's place and tried to clear my head. The idea of therapy and giving Lisa another chance was weighing heavily on me. I mean, 8 years of marriage isn't something you just walk away from easily. But every time I thought about her with Mike, I felt a wave of anger and betrayal. The next day, I went to meet with the lawyer. He was a no-nonsense kind of guy and laid out all my options. You need to protect yourself, he said. Start by getting a separation agreement in place. That will give you some breathing room to decide what you want to do. I agreed and started the process. When I told Lisa, she flipped out. She called me, screaming, "How could you do this? You're giving up on us." I'm not giving up, I said, trying to stay calm. I need time to think, and this is the best way to get that. It's temporary. She was hysterical. You don't love me anymore, do you? You're just looking for an excuse to leave. It's not like that, Lisa. I need space to figure things out. The next few days were rough. Lisa kept calling and texting, trying to get me to come home, promising she'd change, that things would be different. I kept my distance, trying to sort through my feelings. Dave was a huge help, giving me a much-needed reality check whenever I started to waver. Then, out of nowhere, Lisa showed up at Dave's place. She was a mess, makeup smeared from crying, hair tangled. Please, just talk to me, she begged when I opened the door. Lisa, this isn't the time, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She pushed past me into the living room. You can't just ignore me. We need to fix this. Barging in here isn't going to help, Dave said, standing up. She ignored him, turning to me. I'm sorry for everything. I was stupid and selfish, but I love you, and I can't lose you. Please give me another chance. Her desperation was painful to see, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still trying to manipulate me. Lisa, you need to leave. We can talk later, but not like this. She started crying again, sinking to her knees. I'll do anything, anything. I'll cut off all contact with Mike. I'll go to therapy every day if I have to. Just don't leave me. I felt a pang of guilt, but I stood my ground. Lisa, you need to go. We'll talk when you've calmed down. She looked up at me, eyes full of tears. You really hate me, don't you? I don't hate you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but I can't just forget what you did. We need time apart. She finally got up and left, sobbing. Dave and I sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything pressing down on us. A couple of days later, Lisa called me again. This time, she was calmer. I've been thinking a lot, she said. I know I screwed up and I know it'll take time, but I want to earn your trust back. Can we please try therapy together? I took a deep breath. I'll think about it, but right now, I need more time. She sighed. Okay, I understand. Just know that I'm here, and I'm not giving up on us. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my mind, wondering if there was any way to salvage our marriage. I decided to check Lisa's social media, something I hadn't done in a while. That's when I found something that made my blood run cold. She had posted a picture of her and Mike, taken just a few weeks before I caught them. The caption read, "Great night out with my favorite driver." The comments were filled with her friends teasing her about how close they looked. I felt sick. How could she lie to me and then flaunt her affair online? I confronted her the next day. "What's this?" I demanded, showing her the post. She looked shocked. "That's nothing. It was just a fun night out. You're reading too much into it." "Too much of a big deal? You were cheating on me with him. This is proof that you were lying to me long before I caught you." She tried to grab my phone. "It's just a picture. It doesn't mean anything. Stop lying, Lisa. I'm done with the lies." She started crying again, but I couldn't take it anymore. "You know what? I'm filing for divorce. This is too much. I can't trust you, and I can't live like this." Her tears turned to anger. "Fine. If that's what you want, then go ahead. But don't expect me to make it easy for you." So here I am, folks, back at square one. I'm meeting with my lawyer tomorrow to start the divorce process. Part of me feels relieved, but another part of me is terrified of what comes next. After I told Lisa I was filing for divorce, I thought that was it. I was ready to move on and put this whole nightmare behind me. But of course, it wasn't going to be that simple. The next day I met with my lawyer and started the paperwork. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. When I got back to Dave's, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I knew it was the right thing to do, but it still hurt. That evening, Lisa called me. I ignored her first few calls, but she kept trying, so I finally picked up. "What do you want, Lisa?" Her voice was shaky. "I need to talk to you. It's important." "More lies? More manipulation?" "No, it's not like that. Please, just hear me out." I sighed, feeling exhausted. "Fine, talk." I'm pregnant." My heart stopped. "What?" "I took another test today. It's positive. I'm pregnant and I'm pretty sure it's yours." "Pretty sure? You mean there's a chance it's Mike's?" She started crying. "No, it's not like that. I swear, it's just, I'm pretty sure it's yours. I'm so scared." I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, confusion, fear. How am I supposed to believe you? "I'll take a paternity test, whatever it takes. Just please don't leave me alone in this." I didn't know what to say. This changed everything. If she was really pregnant with my child, I couldn't just walk away. But I also couldn't ignore everything she'd done. "I need time to think," I said finally. "Okay," she whispered. "I understand. Just, please don't shut me out." I hung up and stared at the wall, trying to process everything. When I told Dave, he was as shocked as I was. "Man, this is a mess," he said. "You need to make sure she's telling the truth." The next day, I called Lisa and told her we needed to meet and talk in person. She agreed, and we met at a nearby coffee shop. She looked tired and anxious, her eyes red from crying. "Okay, let's talk," I said, sitting down across from her. She took a deep breath. I know I've screwed up, but I'm telling you the truth. I'm pregnant, and I want to make this work. For our baby's sake. How can I believe anything you say? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll do whatever it takes to prove it to you. We can get a paternity test as soon as possible. Just please, give me a chance to make things right. I felt torn. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that this baby could be a fresh start. But another part of me couldn't shake the feeling that she was still manipulating me. Okay, I said finally. We'll get a paternity test. But if it turns out you're lying again, I'm done. No more chances. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Thank you. We made arrangements to get the test done, and the next few days were a blur. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, trying to keep my emotions in check. Lisa kept texting me, trying to reassure me, but it was hard to trust her. Finally, the day of the test came. We went to the clinic together, and the whole process was quick, but nerve-wracking. They told us it would take a few days to get the results, and the waiting was agonizing. During that time, Lisa tried to show she was serious about changing. She started going to therapy, cut off all contact with Mike, and even quit her job. She begged me to move back home, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. Then, one evening, Lisa showed up at Dave's place again. She looked more composed this time, but I could see the fear in her eyes. The results came in, she said, handing me an envelope. My hands were shaking as I opened it. I read the words over and over, barely able to comprehend what they said. The baby was mine. Lisa was crying softly. See, I wasn't lying. I want to make this work, for our baby. I felt a mix of relief and dread. This changes things, I said slowly. But it doesn't erase what you did. I know, she whispered. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. We talked for hours that night, laying everything out on the table. I told her how deeply she had hurt me, and she apologized over and over, promising she would change. I decided to move back home, but I told her things would be different. We would go to therapy together, take things one step at a time. It wasn't an easy decision, but I couldn't ignore the fact that we were about to have a child together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. Therapy was tough, bringing up all the pain and betrayal, but it also helped us start to communicate better. Lisa was making an effort, and I could see she was genuinely trying to change. But then, just when I thought we were making progress, another unexpected event turned everything upside down. One evening, Lisa's phone rang while she was in the shower. I glanced at the screen and saw a message from Mike. My heart sank. Against my better judgment, I opened it. I miss you, it said. When Lisa came out, I confronted her. Why is Mike still texting you? Her face went pale. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, I swear. Then why is he saying he misses you? She looked panicked. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to stir up trouble. I haven't responded, I promise. I felt a surge of anger. You expect me to believe that, after everything? I'm telling the truth, she cried, her voice rising. I've cut him off completely. Please, you have to believe me. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Everything was so tangled and messy. I can't do this, I said, feeling defeated. I need space. Again. So here I am, back at Dave's, trying to figure out what to do next. I don't know if I can ever trust Lisa again, even with a baby on the way. What would you do in my situation? Write in the comments. I would be very grateful for any advice. After finding that text from Mike, I was at my wit's end. Lisa's insistence that she had cut him off didn't match with the evidence, and I felt like I was stuck in a never-ending loop of betrayal and lies. Back at Dave's place, I tried to clear my head. He suggested I go through with the separation and focus on the baby without the toxic relationship. It sounded like solid advice, but it was easier said than done. A couple of days later, Lisa called again. Please, can we meet? I need to explain. I hesitated, but agreed. We met at a nearby park, a neutral ground. She looked anxious but determined. I know you don't believe me, but I haven't talked to Mike. I have no idea why he sent that message. I raised an eyebrow. And you expect me to just take your word for it? I know it sounds crazy, but I'm willing to prove it. Look at my phone, my messages. I haven't responded to him. I blocked him everywhere. Please, just look. I took her phone and went through it. True to her word, there were no recent messages to or from Mike. She had blocked him on all social media. For the first time in a while, I saw a glimmer of hope. Maybe she was telling the truth this time. All right, I said, handing her phone back. But this doesn't change everything. We still have a lot to work through. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to make this work, for us and for the baby. We decided to continue therapy and take things slow. I moved back home but slept in the guest room. It was awkward, but necessary. We needed to rebuild trust, and that wasn't going to happen overnight. Things started to improve. Therapy sessions were intense but helpful. We learned to communicate better, to really listen to each other. Lisa was making a genuine effort, and I started to believe that maybe we could get through this. But then, as if the universe wanted to test us, another curveball was thrown our way. One evening, while we were having dinner, there was a loud knock at the door. I opened it to find Mike standing there, looking furious. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past me into the house. "What the hell are you doing here?" I shouted, blocking his way to the living room where Lisa was. He looked me dead in the eye. "I need to talk to Lisa." "You're not welcome here. Get out," I demanded, my heart racing. Lisa came out of the kitchen, her face going pale when she saw Mike. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm not leaving until we talk," Mike said, his voice rising. "You owe me an explanation." "She owes you nothing," I snapped. "Get out of my house or I'll call the police." He ignored me, focusing on Lisa. "You promised we'd be together. You said you loved me. Now you're just going to throw it all away?" Lisa looked horrified. "I never promised you anything. This is over, Mike. You need to leave." "You think you can just cut me out like that?" he shouted. "I'll tell everyone what you did. Your friends, your family. They'll all know the truth." I stepped forward, my fists clenched. "Get out now!" Mike sneered. "You think you're better than me? You have no idea what she's really like." Before I could respond, Lisa stepped between us. "Leave, Mike, now, or I'll call the police." He stared at her for a moment, then turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. We stood there in stunned silence, the tension hanging heavy in the air. Lisa started crying, and I pulled her into a hug, my anger slowly dissipating. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "It's okay," I whispered, trying to calm her down. "He's gone. We'll figure this out." The next day, we went to the police and filed a restraining order against Mike. It felt like a weight had been lifted, but the encounter had left us both shaken. Therapy sessions became even more intense as we worked through the trauma of Mike's unexpected visit. I started to see a side of Lisa that I hadn't before. Vulnerable, genuinely remorseful, and determined to make things right. Despite everything, I began to believe that maybe we could rebuild our life together. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. But as always, life had other plans. Just when I thought things were finally settling down, another unexpected event threw everything into chaos. After filing the restraining order against Mike, things seemed to calm down for a bit. Lisa and I were working hard in therapy, trying to rebuild trust and communication. I was still sleeping in the guest room, but we were making progress. Or so I thought. One evening a few weeks after Mike's visit, Lisa and I were having dinner. It felt almost normal, like we were starting to find a new rhythm. Suddenly her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and quickly turned it face down. "What was that?" I asked, feeling a familiar pang of suspicion. "Just a spam text," she said quickly, not meeting my eyes. "Can I see it?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She hesitated, then handed me her phone. The text was from an unknown number. "Miss you. Can we talk?" My heart sank. "Who is this?" "I don't know," she said, looking genuinely confused. "I blocked Mike. It can't be him." "You need to find out who it is," I said, my voice tight with anger. "I can't deal with more lies." She nodded, taking her phone back. "I will, I promise." The next day she called the number, putting it on speaker. A woman's voice answered. "Hello? Who is this?" Lisa asked, her voice shaking. This is Jessica. Is this Lisa? Lisa looked at me, bewildered. Yes, it is. Why are you texting me? I'm Mike's sister, Jessica said. I need to talk to you about something important. Lisa and I exchanged a glance. What is it? It's about Mike, Jessica said. He's in the hospital. He was in a car accident. He's been asking for you. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, and a strange sense of pity. Why is he asking for Lisa? He's been talking about her nonstop, Jessica said. He's really messed up. He thinks she's the only one who can help him. I didn't know what to say. Lisa looked equally stunned. What do you want me to do? Can you come see him? Jessica asked. I think it would help him a lot. Lisa turned to me, waiting for my response. I took a deep breath. Do you want to go? I don't know, she said honestly. But if it will help him, maybe I should. I nodded slowly. All right, but I'm coming with you. We agreed to visit Mike the next day. The whole situation felt surreal, like we were being pulled into another nightmare. When we arrived at the hospital, Jessica met us in the lobby. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Thank you for coming, she said, leading us to Mike's room. He's been in and out of consciousness, but when he's awake, he keeps asking for you. We entered the room, and there was Mike, looking battered and broken. His eyes opened when he saw us, and he smiled weakly. Lisa, you came. She nodded, stepping closer to his bed. I'm here. How are you feeling? He tried to sit up, wincing in pain. Better now that you're here. I stayed by the door, watching them. It was hard to see him like this. Even after everything he'd done, he looked so vulnerable, so human. I'm sorry for everything, Mike said, his voice barely a whisper. I messed up. I know that. But I need your help. What do you need? Lisa asked gently. I need to know you forgive me, he said, tears in his eyes. I need to know you don't hate me. Lisa glanced at me, then back at Mike. I don't hate you, Mike. But you need to focus on getting better. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. That means a lot. We stayed for a little while longer, talking softly. When we left, I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was something. In the days that followed, Lisa and I continued to work on our relationship. Therapy was helping, and I started to believe we might actually make it through this. But just as we began to find our footing, another unexpected event rocked our world. One evening, Lisa received a letter in the mail. It was from Mike. She opened it, her face going pale as she read. Oh my God, she whispered, handing it to me. The letter detailed a confession from Mike. He admitted to blackmailing Lisa, threatening to expose their affair if she didn't continue seeing him. He also revealed that he had been trying to sabotage our marriage, hoping to win her back. I felt a mix of fury and relief. Furious at Mike for his manipulation, but relieved that Lisa had been telling the truth about cutting him off. We need to take this to the police, I said. Lisa nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry for everything. I never wanted any of this to happen. We went to the police the next day and handed over the letter. They assured us they would investigate. It felt like a weight had been lifted, but I knew we still had a long way to go. As we continued to navigate the aftermath, I realized something important. Despite everything, I still loved Lisa. We had been through hell, but we were still standing. And maybe, just maybe, we could come out of this stronger. After taking Mike's confession to the police, things finally started to settle down. Lisa and I were still in therapy, but there was a sense of progress. We were starting to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. The restraining order kept Mike at a distance, and we began to focus on our future, especially with the baby on the way. One morning, a couple of weeks later, I woke up feeling cautiously optimistic. Lisa and I had a solid therapy session the night before, and we talked about our hopes for the future. It felt like we were finally turning a corner, but life, as always, had other plans. I was making coffee when there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find a police officer standing there, My heart sank. "What's going on?" "Are you Gary?" he asked. "Yes, that's me." "Can we come in? We need to talk to both you and your wife." I nodded, letting him in and calling for Lisa. She came out of the bedroom looking worried. "What's happening?" The officer cleared his throat. "We have some news about Mike. He was found dead in his apartment last night. It looks like a suicide." Lisa gasped, covering her mouth. "Oh my God." I felt a rush of conflicting emotions: shock, sadness, relief. "What happened?" "He left a note," the officer said, handing us a copy. "It explains a lot. We thought you should see it." I took the note and read it aloud. "Lisa, Gary, I'm sorry for everything. I know I've caused you both a lot of pain, and I can't live with the guilt anymore. I lied, manipulated, and hurt people who didn't deserve it. I hoped for something that was never real and destroyed lives in the process. I hope this brings you some closure. You deserve to be happy, and I hope you can find that happiness together. Mike." Lisa was crying, and I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It was over. The nightmare was finally over. The officer offered his condolences and left us to process the news. We sat in silence for a while, holding each other. "I can't believe it's really over," Lisa said through her tears. "I know," I said, feeling a strange sense of peace. "But maybe now we can start to heal." The weeks that followed were a mix of grief and relief. We mourned the loss of Mike's life, despite everything he had done. Therapy sessions became more focused on healing and moving forward. We talked about our baby, our future, and how we could rebuild our relationship from the ground up. Lisa continued to show genuine effort in changing and earning back my trust. I moved back into our bedroom, and we started to reconnect on a deeper level. The past still haunted us, but we were determined not to let it define our future. One evening, a few months later, we were sitting on the porch, talking about baby names and nursery colors. It felt almost surreal to be planning a future together after everything we'd been through. "Do you think we'll ever fully heal?" Lisa asked, her hand resting on her growing belly. "I think we will," I said, squeezing her hand. "It's going to take time, but we're stronger than we were before." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I love you, Gary. Thank you for giving us another chance." "I love you too, Lisa, and I'm looking forward to our new beginning." As we sat there, watching the sunset, I realized how far we'd come. Our relationship had been tested in ways I never imagined, but we'd come out the other side stronger and more resilient.